Alright, so we got TK and Kari to talk about again. And if you remember back in Adventure, I made it clear I wasn't too thrilled about their character and characterization back then. So how do they compare now? Not much better. In fact, a little worse at times. They're both kind of bland and not very interesting. I mean, at times, I have to admit, I forgot Kari and TK were even in this show. I mean, they really kind of don't do a lot besides just be poster childs from the previous season. In fact, these two are easily the biggest tie to Adventure that O2 has, because you've got other characters running around from the previous season, but they're mostly in the background. They're not playing a very active role, at least most of them aren't. I mean, you can go long periods of time without seeing Joe, Mimi, or Sora. Now, I will say it is kind of interesting to have Kari and TK as characters in this season, because I kind of do like the idea of seeing the two youngest kids in the group a little more grown up and to kind of see what they look like now. And also, it would be kind of cool to see these two take a more active role in the group. Because, I mean, TK was largely a background character, you know, until the show needed somebody to beat the boss of the arc. And as I mentioned back then, most of the characterization that was given towards him seemed to be more indirectly aimed at Matt. So at times it seemed like TK was not so much his own character, but rather more of a tool for Matt's character. And Kari had it a little rougher because she was only introduced after like 75% of the season was over. So she didn't have a lot of time to develop, and the writers knew that, so they didn't really give her a lot of development. Rather opting to give her partner some development, or at least make her have an interesting backstory. So I gave them both, I cut them a little slack, I think. I know it's hard to write for young kids like TK, especially when the group of kids is so big and so much the focus of the show is on the leader Tai. But they tried to do some stuff with him, so okay, that was fine. Kari I gave a lot of slack because I just think she's adorable. And she has an interesting Digimon partner, which I thought made up for her lack of personality. But like I said, I was interested to see how these two were going to be implemented because, well, they're a lot older now. Kari is now going to have an entire season where we get to know her, so that's a bonus for her. Kari and TK also have experience with the digital world. They know a lot about it, which obviously is going to put them in some type of mentor position for characters like Davis, Cody, and Yoli, who have never seen a Digimon before. So I gotta ask, with all that, how are they still able to slink into the background to the point that I forget their characters? Logically, these two should be in the forefront of the entire season, but it feels like they're completely overshadowed by everybody else. It feels like the show is still thinking they're in Adventure, but hasn't realized they've grown up and should act differently. I mean, they do act kind of differently. I mean, TK doesn't cry at all. But besides that, and not having magical save the day at the last second powers, and brief glimpses of things that you think would be very important, but turn out to not be very important at all, yeah, these two don't seem all that different. Which is not acceptable because, like I said, they're older. In fact, I think they're older than Davis, and he's supposed to be the leader of the group. In fact, I don't even think they're Davis's confidants. I think Cody managed to steal that role somehow, even though his experience in the digital world is like not even a fraction of what TK and Kari's are. Let's just get started. Which one of these two should I talk about first? I'll do TK. I did him first last time, so let's just be symmetrical here. Okay, TK. TK's role in the group is still very questionable to me. I feel like the show was trying to set him up to be like another Matt, but it kind of dropped that premise, like, I don't know, a fourth of the way through the show. And then they just tried to make him like a mentor for Cody, which I guess that kind of worked better than having TK as a foil for Davis. Okay, look, here's why I think the whole Tai and Matt relationship worked better than the Davis and TK one. Because Tai and Matt had a rivalry, but it wasn't a one-sided rivalry. Matt and Tai both had very strong opinions about how the group should be run, and both options seemed valid because, well, both of them had about as much experience in the digital world as the other. With the Davis-TK rivalry, it's so one-sided because in O2, TK is just so smart, so in control, so knowledgeable at everything that's going on, that the rivalry just consists of Davis trying to be as good as TK, or at times trying to be better than TK, and just failing, as TK sometimes starts lecturing Davis about the importance of leadership or how to be a team player. And it makes me just wonder, why isn't TK the leader for this season? I mean, if the show is gonna favor TK so much in this little conflict between him and Davis, why not just make him the leader? I mean, with Tai and Matt, you saw the flaws in both their leadership abilities. And you saw how their rivalry got started. It was about who would lead the group and who had the best ideas and who actually could keep everybody safe while having the most effective strategies for defeating the villains of the season. But in O2, TK can't be the leader because at the beginning of the season, Davis was told he had to be the leader.
But I noticed that you broke your goggles, and as we all know, the leader of the Digidestined just wouldn't look right without them. So here, I want you to have mine.
And I guess there was no second guessing it or questioning it. Davis is just now the leader. So it's not so much a rivalry about leadership. In fact, now that I think about it, this was never a rivalry about leadership and had nothing to do with leadership. The whole reason for this rivalry, and the whole reason it ever got started, was because of Kari. Which in my opinion, isn't the greatest reason to have a character-driven rivalry. I mean, this whole thing boils down to Davis has a crush on Kari, TK is Kari's best friend. Therefore, in Davis's mind, the biggest obstacle between him and Kari's relationship, I guess. And because of this, Davis tries to show up TK at every chance he can. He usually ends up messing it up and then has to learn a lesson about anything or whatever. And it's all played for comedic effect. And that, to me, seems like that's pretty much what TK's role in the group is during the first arc. Or at least most of the first arc. He's kind of like this obstacle that Davis has put in between him and Kari, and is pretty much just an excuse for Davis to act like an idiot. And that to me seems like a pretty weak, grounding for a character, especially one that I feel should have a lot more importance put on him. And to make things worse, this whole rivalry and conflict doesn't go anywhere. I mean, I think it's just forgotten halfway through the first arc. I mean, it has a little bit of a resolve where they're like in a minecart fighting, and then Matt and Tai go, "Hey guys, stop fighting," and then they go, "Okay." And then they stop being rivals. Well, that was surely the epic conclusion to the rivalry of the ages. Why, I haven't seen two adversaries go at each other like that since Patton versus Montgomery. Oh boy. Okay, let's just talk about one more thing about this whole rivalry, and then we're going to be done with it, because I personally can't stand saying the word rivalry over and over and over again. So I'm just going to end it off by giving one more reason why this feud doesn't work. And I'm going to do so by once again comparing it to Matt and Tai's whole thing. Because Matt and Tai, they both had flaws like I mentioned before. And the characters were definitely more molded off those flaws and differences. Like, Tai is the impulsive one. He makes decisions very quickly, which in dire situations and stressful circumstances are good, because you need somebody in those circumstances that can actually make decisions. But at the same time, he doesn't think things out all the way, which leads to some pretty bad mistakes, and it sometimes can actually lead to hurt feelings and other things that hurt the group. While Matt is a bit more calculating, he seems to be very concerned with the group, mainly because he's got blood in the game. But he's also kind of more emotionally volatile than Tai, and sometimes his strategic thinking can lead to inaction. So that's how those two kind of play off each other. The problem I see with TK's character is that he doesn't really have any of those flaws. I mean, TK's been shown to be nice, smart, kind, generous, trusting, cool under pressure. and athletic. He's not really shown to have many flaws, if any, and he doesn't seem to have any of those personal demons that Nat had either, even though they are related. But then again, Matt's whole thing was that he was upset that his parents were divorced and he was overprotective of TK. Now, because TK was in the group, it allowed those two personal demons to come out to light. But because this is O2 and TK doesn't have any relatives in the main group, that whole thing with his parents being separated along with him and his brother, that's not really touched upon, if at all. I think the only time they actually bring it up as something TK is really concerned about is during the second to last episode. And at that point, it just seems like they're searching for something for TK to be upset about. So to me, it seems like TK doesn't really have any flaws, and then when you have to write a foil around that, like Davis, the only way you can do that and still have a legitimate rivalry, I think, is to give that character an overabundance of flaws.